Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be someone else? To experience life through their eyes, feel their emotions, and be a part of their world? Well, today we're taking it a step further. We're diving deep into a philosophical question that challenges the very nature of our existence. What if you're just a thought in someone else's mind? How would you live if you weren't real? It might sound like a crazy idea, but stick with me because this is going to be one wild ride. So, let's start at the beginning. How do you determine if you are real? We all have our own individual experiences, thoughts, and feelings that make us who we are. What if those things aren't real either? What if they're all just figments of someone else's imagination? Let's say you're in a deep slumber, dreaming away in your own little world. In your dream, you're flying through the skies, soaring above the clouds. You feel the wind rushing past you as you dive through the air. It feels so real, so exhilarating. But when you wake up, you realize it was all just a dream. Your heart races, your palms are sweaty, and you can't help but wonder, was any of it real? Now imagine if you never woke up. What if you were stuck in that dream forever? You wouldn't know any different, right? You wouldn't know you were dreaming because you were living in your own little world, your own little reality. That's what it would be like if you were just a thought in someone else's mind. You might think, well, I can feel things. I can see, hear, and touch. But how do you know that's real? We all rely on our senses to tell us what's real. But what if those senses were all just a figment of someone else's imagination? What if you were just a character in their story? If you're still with me, let's take it a step further. What if you didn't have any thoughts or feelings? What if you were just a puppet, moving and acting according to someone else's will? That's what it would be like if you were just a thought in someone else's mind. You wouldn't have any free will. You wouldn't be able to make your own decisions or choices. You would just do what the person who was thinking about you wanted you to do. You would be their pawn in their little game of life. But here's the kicker. Even if you realized that you were just a thought in someone else's mind, would it really matter? Because if they stopped thinking about you, you would cease to exist, would become nothing. You would be erased from existence. So how would you live if you weren't real? You would live in service to someone else, would live at their beck and call. You would be their servant. You would be their slave. And let's be honest, who wants to live like that? Who wants to be nothing more than a puppet dancing at the whims of another? Not me, that's for sure. That's why it's so important to remember that we are all real. We are all human beings with thoughts, feelings, and emotions. We are all real people in this world. But now let's switch gears a bit. Let's look at this situation from the other person's point of view. Let's say you're the person whose mind contains this other being, this thought. How would you feel knowing that there's something in your mind that isn't yours? How would you feel knowing that you have created this being, this thought, and that it has its own will, its own desires and dreams? Would you feel guilty? Would you feel responsible? Would you feel like a god? Because let's face it, if you're the one in control, if you're the one who gets to decide what this other being experiences, then you are its god. You are the one who holds its fate in its hands. Ultimately, this is a question that each of us will have to answer for ourselves. There is no right or wrong answer. There is no clear-cut solution. All we know is that if you're watching this video, then you are real. And if you're thinking about someone else, then they are real too. So what will it be? Will you be the puppet master or the puppet? Will you be the god or the creation? The choice is yours. Hope you enjoyed this thought-provoking journey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.